afternoon from Los Angeles, and welcome to Stock Market Today. On today's show, we're going to be taking a look at Microsoft, also checking in on TAL Education and Zoom Video. But first, we begin with a look at the major indexes. It's Alyssa Corum. I'm joined by Ed Carson. And Ed, it was another gnarly day in the market. We thought that there was a glimmer of hope towards the beginning of the day, the Fed cutting rates, but just plunging by the end of the day. The Nasdaq closing down 3%, and the S&P 500 in Dow not too far behind. I mean, this just goes to show you cannot take 1 or even 2 days of positive action in isolation when conditions are like this.
Yeah, I mean, the best market days in history tend to be in corrections or bear markets because you can have these swing backs, but they can come right back down. This is why you wait for that confirmation. The Fed rate cut, it wasn't a total surprise that we were going to get a rate cut, if not now, by March 18th. It was pretty obvious, but there was a lot of fear that it wasn't necessarily going to be a big impact. But the fundamental thing is the market, this is how the market reacted. We don't have a fall through day. You shouldn't be in the market. The S&P, I think, went back below the 200-day line. Dow never got back above it, I don't think. The Nasdaq, is heading back toward that area. It's just really ugly action, and investors should wait until we get a real all-clear signal. And even then, tiptoe back in, perhaps, maybe not rush back in, because it may take quite a while for this to work itself out.
Right. We are definitely watching these conditions very closely, and we'll make sure to update the audience as the conditions change. All right, and let's take a look at Microsoft, because that top tech stock is now back below its 50-day line after recovering that level in Monday's session, Ed. And this is one of those names that we've been watching all year, a nice leader, and it's struggling to hold the 50-day. Yeah,
I mean, if you've owned this for a long time, this is part of our inaugural IBD long-term leaders list. So you don't necessarily need to sell it for that if you have from a long-term horizon, not just bought it very recently for a short-term play. But you're seeing this with a lot of stocks. A lot of stocks hit resistance at the 50-day or fell back. I mean, they're following the market. I mean, it's just as simple as that. So the RS line, which is sort of that bluish line, purplish line down there, it's actually not that far down because the market was down that low. But sometimes a stock will hold support or sometimes or regain support. That doesn't mean they're going to keep it. I mean, it's just like you have to be able to react. You have to realize it's a stock market correction. Most stocks are going to fall in a correction and pretty violently.
Yeah, they are. But there are a few stocks that are holding up, one of which is Zoom Video. That stock tacking on a gain of about 3.8% today, above average turnover. We've been focusing on this name as a beneficiary, given that it enables remote communications. Many conferences are now being canceled. Businesses are, following their contingency plans to try to stop the spread of the virus. So platforms like Zoom Video really coming in handy, but we are going to be getting earnings from Zoom Video soon too, so also potentially a catalyst.
Also a catalyst one way or the other. I mean, and also I think people are going to be looking at the other metrics, like how many downloads have they gotten perhaps, or what's their guidance? I mean, are they really seeing something stickiness? Do they think this is going to be, they're not just doing it now, but I mean, because there is a pain pressure like, I got to download this new software. But once you've done it, once you've gotten used to it, we use it for IBD Live. And so now it's like, I can Zoom, and it's easy to click. And the first time we're going, what are we doing here? And so it may last a while. So I think that'll be very interesting to go ahead. So even when the coronavirus fades in the background and we're not so worried about it, people might just use this more often because they feel like it actually works pretty well.
Right. That's also what an expert said that I spoke with at the Investing Strategies show, especially in China too, where the hardest hit areas are consumer behavior is changing, and whether or not some of those habits will be long-lasting is yet to be seen, but there's at least a short-term benefit. And in addition to e-commerce stocks out of China, the education names are also performing well. So we're going to be taking a look at TAL Education. The ticker there is TAL. This name holding up nicely, gaining just fractionally today, but holding above its 50-day line.
Yeah, I mean, any stock that isn't a coronavirus play that is actually going up today is pretty amazing. We're actually seeing some of the China stocks, not today necessarily, but doing fairly well recently. I mean, the virus cases are falling off quite a bit, especially outside of the real epicenter. So some of these stocks, are coming back. And TAL Education, you can see the RS line. is moving up. And actually, TAL Education and its rival New Oriental Education, they both warned yesterday. They said, the coronavirus is going to hurt our revenue, but people probably assume that already. And maybe parents are going to send their kids back to school. They're expanding their online efforts. When the market really does turn around, China stocks might, oddly enough, be among the real leaders.
Well, that RS line is definitely very telling, and that's one of the key things that we're looking for when it comes to putting stocks on our watch list during this time.
Absolutely.
And that conversation about top stocks that should be on your radar will definitely continue on IBD Live, so make sure you're checking that out. And for more insights about how the coronavirus is impacting top stocks and businesses and their plans and more, companies out of China, make sure you check out our latest episode of Investing Strategies, the premiere episode of season 2. Make sure you check out investors.com/investing strategies for all the details on that. And we also have a webinar coming up for you on March 10th. Nailed it, failed it. Arusha Pierce and Scott St. Clair will be sharing their trading hits and misses. Make sure you check that out at investors.com/webinar. There's always something going on, but especially key right now to be paying attention to our analysis, as this is a very fluid situation and everything can change very quickly.
Absolutely.
So we'll be monitoring those conditions very closely. All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.